Welcome to episode 14, Basics and Beyond, the podcast. Today, we have a chance to talk to Cassie Benson. She is an amazing realtor, amazing mom, amazing friend, all the things. And we're going to talk to her today about her life, how she manages all the things, being an entrepreneur, like I said, being a mom, and how she stays healthy and prioritizes herself. So take about a half an hour, come on in and join us. Welcome to Basics and Beyond. This is Cassie. Cassie is with us today. Cassie, tell us about you. Cassie, how long have we known each other, Cassie?
Oh my gosh, I would say 5 or 6 years. Does that sound
Yeah.
correct?
Wait a minute. Did you sell my sister's house?
I did sell your sister's house.
Okay. Did you know Heather before then?
Yes,
Because you knew Mike before then.
I knew Mike before Heather.
Gotcha. So we've known
Mhm.
of each other for like really long time. But I
A
think
very long
we
time.
started talking like 5 years ago when you sold her house, I think.
Yes, yep,
Yeah.
because you were moving back to Minnesota, and that's how we connected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fun. So tell us about you, other than how, we know each other. Obviously, everyone can tell Cassie's a realtor.
I am
Um,
a realtor.
but tell us some interesting, wonderful things about you and your life and like how your life works for you.
Oh my gosh, that is such a loaded question, Laura.
I
What would you
know
like what would you specifically like to know about me?
everything.
Everything, everything.
Everything. Tell us about your family. What do you like? Tell us about how you live and how you work. Just talk to us about how you live first. What's your life like?
Sure. So we live in a rural area, in a small town area, where I was born and raised. I'm married to my best friend. We actually met when we were 19. At the time, it didn't make sense to date. We moved on, led other lives, reconnected. Fate brought us back together, and now we've been together for 13 years. We have, yep, I have a wonderful bonus daughter that came with him, and she's going to be a senior this year. And we have a 4.5-year-old son
Is he
together.
is he going into kindergarten or no, not
Not
yet?
yet.
Okay.
Nope. So based on his birthday, he's a December birthday. So we have one more full year before he goes in. But he is in full-time daycare. When I became a mom, I brought him to work with me. I did not take a break.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was great because when he was an infant, it was easy. So I just got to carry him around. He slept most of the time. It wasn't a big deal. Everybody loved the baby snuggles and all of that until he started moving and crawling. And then I realized quickly that our time together was not valuable. I was struggling to get my work done and pay attention to him at the same time. So we made the decision to put him into daycare. We
Mm-hmm.
started part time, and quickly I realized I needed more help. So
Sure.
we put him into full time daycare so that way I could do what I love the most and be a better mom when he's not there. So,
That's really interesting that you say that. That you realized early on that in order to be your best self, you had to be able to kind of make that accommodation for him. because
mhm.
a lot of people think, well, I need to be 24/7 with my kiddo, constantly having attention, doing all the things like that is the most important thing, which is true. They are the most important thing. However, sometimes that means in order for us to be the best person we can be, we have to take time away from that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because the time that we spend together is quality time, and I'm able to be present when I'm with him. The time that we had together, I wasn't present. I was on my computer, I was on my phone. Um, he didn't have other kids to play with because I always say we have two only children, really. I mean, we have a senior in high school and then we have a 4-year-old. So, I mean, for him not to have any other siblings to play with, it was really challenging. And I felt bad for him. And I felt like he deserved to be around other kids and have a good time and do what he's supposed to do as a toddler. And yeah. So it was good. We're all happy, and I love to work. So I was just not cut out to be a stay-at-home mom. Some people are great at it. That was just not I that's not my deal.
Hmm. Yeah, you like to be busy.
Mhm.
You like to be very busy.
And being a stay-at-home mom it's a different kind of busy because I never thought, I mean, I shouldn't say this, but I always look at stay-at-home moms like, what do they do all day? Well, it is a lot. It is a lot. It's just not my jam.
Hmm. Yeah. And it sounds like it worked out really well it's still working out really well for you
Mhm.
guys. Like he's a
Yep.
well-adjusted little kiddo. He's
Yep.
goes and plays and does his thing, and you get to get your work done. And like you said, be present when you're there, when he's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good. That's fantastic. So tell us about your work. Tell us about what you do. Okay, so I have to be really transparent here.
Mhm.
I have used and worked with realtors, I've worked with realtors for a long time because Joe and I, we move around a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, I see a certain part of what realtors do, right? Which is what most of us see.
Mhm.
But after having, knowing you the way that I know you, and you were a client for a while, there's so much more to what you do that I don't think people understand how your work is. I mean, and you, in my opinion, you really are an entrepreneur because you run your show.
Mhm.
So tell us kind of, if you want, you could do like a day in the life. What does that look like? Or just kind of
Sure.
help us know what goes on with you as a realtor.
Sure. Well, I'm gonna start with my favorite line recently. This isn't selling sunset, people.
That's fantastic.
It's like, I think we get wrapped up in some of these TV shows and things can look very glamorous. I absolutely love what I do, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of back end things that people don't see. There's a lot of fires we're putting out that people don't see. There's a lot of negotiation on the back end. There's a lot of hours put in that people don't see. What people see on TV is that we're, this lavish life of opening doors for people and showing and talking about all the features and the pretty stuff. And yes, the marketing's a big part of it, but there is a lot of back end stuff that goes with it. So a day in a life would be very difficult for me to explain because my schedule can change by the hour. However, I try to time block and schedule the best that I can. So you just have to prioritize, and I try to move and maneuver things to meet all the needs. So not only my clients' needs, but also I can't forget about my family's needs either. So I've learned to intertwine those to make it work best for everybody. So I guess we can talk about like a weekly schedule if you like.
Well, it sounds like you have to be really, really flexible with your time and be
I
able
do.
to kind of zoom out to look at the
Mhm,
big picture and zoom in and be like, where can I modify and move and prioritize
mhm.
based on what's going on?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Because some days I am sitting down and I'm getting a listing ready to go, and we're going through all the paperwork. We're talking about all the features. Like, for example, right now I have a townhome I'm getting ready. Well, there's so much more that goes into that with associations. I'm verifying with associations what can they cannot do, what's included. There's just a lot of compliance that goes on in the background as well. And then once that's done, we get to the shiny fun stuff. Then we get to the marketing, and then we set up the showings, and then it goes on from there. And then once we snag a client, then we're negotiating, right? We're negotiating back and forth terms, what works best for both parties. And this can go on for a long time because there's just so many, there's several steps that go into a transaction. I think a lot of people don't realize that because people don't buy and sell every day typically, unless if you're an investor. So because our industry changes from year to year, I mean, if you buy a house and the average time spent in a house is 7 years, by the time you get around to selling again, a lot has already changed. So I think just having the ability to educate and walk people through this important process is, I don't, it's so important. You have to be able to communicate that and help people understand. But going back to scheduling, so, we have those appointments that are the non-negotiables, but then you get somebody that wants to see a house, and then we have to schedule a time that works best, not only for the buyer, but also for that person selling it. Maybe they're not able to leave their house at that time. So then we're maneuvering those challenges and so on and so forth.
So, yes, so flexibility is really important for you,
Hmm.
which makes it difficult, though, if we think about it, because you not only have your own business, you have a husband who has his own business,
Yes.
and you have a child. So, how do you manage all of that? What do you do to kind of keep, because all I can think about is I would lose my mind trying to, because I'm a time block person too, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to do these things when I do these things, and this is how this works. And you are pulled in 100 different directions from people probably who believe that they're the most important thing on the planet, right? So how do you manage all of that without literally pulling your hair out?
Well, I guess the point is like every single person is important. All my clients are super important. My child is important and my husband's important and our friends and family are important. All those things, right? So really what it comes down to is communication,
Mhm.
planning, putting it on my calendar, and giving myself permission to be flexible. So typically, if it's on my calendar and it's a done deal, like typically it does not change unless if something major comes up. Um, then I just have to kind of work in between those times. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So some things, for example, that I'm okay with moving around is we try to get together with my husband's grandparents bi-weekly for a little happy hour dinner kind of thing. Just they're in their mid 80s. We don't know how much time we have left for them. That is a priority to us.
Mhm.
But sometimes every Wednesday at 4, that might not work for us. So thankfully, they're just at home. So I can say, okay, grandpa and grandma, it's non negotiable that we get together with you this week, but Wednesday at 4 may not work for us because we both have appointments. Can we do Thursday at this time instead? So we
Mhm.
just have to constantly move. It's a constant moving part, right?
Do you have more than one calendar, or do you have like a combined calendar that you use, or do you look at everyone's? Is it this craziness? What do you do?
No. So, I tried the combined calendar, with my husband and I at one time, and it was a disaster. It was
Oh.
absolutely a disaster because I mean, it's all color coordinated, but it's a mess. There's a lot going on there.
Mhm.
So then for him to look at that calendar, it's really busy for him because he doesn't have that much on his calendar.
Oh.
And
Well, his projects are bigger, right?
they're huge projects. So he's doing 1 to 3 at a time. Like he doesn't need to he's got his own system and he's very old school. He likes pen and paper. So he still had like he literally I have to buy him a physical planner every year that he keeps
Oh,
in his truck and he
that's
tracks all of his miles and he has all of his jobs in there and he tracks his hours and however he's billing these jobs.
mhm,
It's a completely different system than I have. Mine is all digital. I
mhm.
would lose a piece of paper. I need things in the computer. I need them in my phone and I have files. Like those are the extent of my paper pushing. So
There you go.
everything's
Nice,
electronic for me.
nice.
They're neatly filed in the computer.
There you go.
One
So,
stop shop.
so how do you then? What I heard you say was every client's important, kids important, husband's important, family, friends are important. I didn't hear Cassie's important.
Oh yes, yes.
So
Thank you for bringing that
so
up.
how you knew I would. Anyway,
I know. Yes.
how does Cassie fit as a priority and importance in all of that?
Yeah, so there's certain things that are non-negotiables for me too. So as far as like mental health, excuse me, my mental health is very, very important to me because if we don't have that, nothing works. Um, I have a hard time thinking. I have a hard time communicating. I have to make time for me, right? And it also affects our physical health, as what I've learned from you too. So things that I do to prioritize myself are I have a bedtime routine. Non-negotiable for me is sleep. It is sleep. So there's a certain time at night that I go to bed almost every single night. Um, I do. The reality is there's nothing I can do to change anything after a certain time at night anyway. So why stay up and worry about it? We can address it first thing in the morning. Before I go to bed, I will check myself out from screen time. I listen to some meditation music. I just kind of try to slow my brain and shut it off. And I started taking magnesium too. And so I think that's really been helping the quality of sleep as well. So those are some things. I also journal and I will also take time to get out and walk a few times a week.
Okay.
So if it's not just myself, I will also schedule walk appointments with even other realtors or girlfriends of mine, and we will do that, a couple times a month. So at least those are with other people, and we're all getting out and exercising.
So you're being a good role model and a good friend, and you also like, I think we forget that that time with those people, particularly for women, I think it's important, but men also. Um
Mhm,
that time that we have in communion with other people, face to face, whatever that looks like,
mhm.
that is part of being healthy too, right?
Absolutely.
That relationship health, that being able to just connect with someone else on that level is so, so important. It impacts our physical health as well as our
Mhm.
mental health.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it
So I think
sounds like
that's like go
you
ahead.
might not like put it in the schedule every day, but you have a general overview of how this is going to work for like the week or the month.
Exactly. Exactly. So, I mean, as far as like my evening routine, that's pretty consistent. Um, as far as getting out and going for walks, sometimes it's weather pending. Sometimes it's just some weeks are busier than others. So sometimes I literally just don't have time to get out for that. And so other weeks where I'm able to go out 3 to 4 times a week, even it's just 30 minutes, maybe it's 60 minutes. It's just a quick, let's get out, get
Mhm.
some fresh air, regroup, refresh.
Let's go back to your evening routine. I think that's so important to kind of reiterate and talk about a little bit is you said there is nothing I can do after X amount of time at night anyway.
Mhm.
So why would I continue to think, do whatever, take action?
Mhm.
So it
Mhm.
feels like you've gotten to the point where you're like, I can't really make it's right. It's the difference between being busy and being productive,
Mhm.
right? So you're saying I could be busy and continue to think about things or do whatever, but I'm not going to be productive that at that time of night.
No,
So
I'm
instead
not.
of making busy time, you're like, I'm going to make me time,
Mhm.
which actually is productive
Mhm.
because I would assume that allows you to be more productive than during the rest of your day.
Absolutely. That's a huge difference.
Mhm.
Unless if it's time sensitive, obviously. If any for negotiations, that's something I can't control. But if it's something where it's a question that can be answered in the morning versus at 11 o'clock at night, I'm probably shutting it down because I need to just be fresh in the morning and be able to answer that question to the best of my ability, not just throw out a response in email. I think that's just at a certain point is almost irresponsible. Just it's okay to just relax and refresh and regroup.
And take time for yourself.
Yep.
Now, is that something that you had to learn or have you always done that?
No, I had to learn it. I think that just comes with age and experience and
Mhm.
maturity, growth.
And I also know that you like to mentor other realtors. Is
Mhm.
that something that talk a little bit about what that mentorship looks like for you? I think most times when we think about mentorship in a business or in a certain career, getting a mentor, that kind of a thing, we really get this tunnel vision of what that looks like. How do you do those kinds of things with them also to help them? Because burnout's got to be a big deal in real
It is a
estate.
big deal. It's very real. It's very real.
Mhm.
Yep. Yeah, especially with new agents because they're just overwhelmed with learning a lot of they have to learn a lot. I mean, I think it takes a long time to get this started and get them used to it. And then they're working, then they get their first deal and then they're panicking and they don't know what to do. And then they just feel like they have to, you know, they're just freaking out. And so I think the first thing that I tell them is you need to breathe, breathe, and let's talk this through and think it through. And let's come up with some scenarios that you can present to your client. And so I think it's just slowing down. They need to slow down and they need to think, and that, it's okay to not, I think we live in such a generation where, like instant gratification is such a thing right now. And there is a certain saying that time is of the essence. And yes, it is. And I think that, yes, as professionals, we need to get back and respond in a very timely fashion. But it doesn't always have to be right now, because I think sometimes if we stop and breathe and think through, we can probably advise our clients better. And, I mean, instead of just in panic mode and just trying to get back and respond. So I think that's the one thing that I really kind of talk with our new agents with is just, hey, you know what, slow down, take a deep breath. Let's think this through. You need to go back to your client with a calm mind and talk it through.
Mhm. That is great. You can use that in anything, right? For anyone
Hmm.
who's listening, that just take a breath, take a moment, breathe, set yourself up. What do you really want to say? What do you need to think through before you make that decision or before you say that thing or before you go and do this or whatever
Yeah.
it is?
Yeah.
I
It could be
mean,
a family conflict. It could be anything. I mean, really, just take a step back and think about it.
mhm,
And I had a previous boss and a great mentor in a different time in my life, but he always just said sometimes it's okay just to respond in the morning, especially if it's a heated conversation. If
mhm.
somebody's upset about something, it's sometimes just time can be a good thing. Just time of the essence can be a good thing in the sense of just letting it. settle for a few hours and then circle back.
Right, because time is of the essence. We attribute that means go hard, go fast, get it done.
Mm.
When in fact, it doesn't have to mean that. It just
It doesn't.
means that time is of the essence and you have to
Mhm.
decide what that looks like for you. Does that mean, like you
Right.
said, does that mean step back, take a breath, or does that
Yep.
mean, oh, we need to push a little bit?
Correct. There's a sense of urgency, time of the essence, and then there's a, okay, let's just let things settle, time of the essence.
So when you think about that, um, and you think about your energy and how you kind of move through the world and with your work and being flexible and all of that and scheduling, how do you, besides your evening routine, how do you like get your food during the day? How do you, because I know I am really like, my body knows exactly when I'm supposed to eat now because I have eaten at
Yep.
that time. It gets hungry and I'm like, whoa, I'm going to eat. How does that kind of self-care work for you? What do you do to help make that happen?
This is always a challenge for me, always. I don't know
And
if
you
I'll
know
ever
why
get the
I
routine down.
ask? I ask that because everyone who's going to be listening to this, if they're a mom, if they're a business owner, if they work for someone else, if they're a dog mom, whatever, everyone runs into this issue nowadays. So that's why I'm asking, what do
Yes.
you do? How does that work for you?
It doesn't. It's hard. I'm going to be honest. I've never been a meal planner. I don't have a traditional schedule. So I know my sister's great at it. She starts her day on Sunday and she wraps up by Thursday. So Saturday, she's meal planning. And I'm always like, this is great. That's not my life. A day is a day for me.
Mhm.
So oftentimes I don't know, I'm just grabbing a protein shake. Sometimes I forget to eat until 1 o'clock in the afternoon and I'm living off coffee. Um, that's the reality. It's not that I don't want to eat. I love food. I absolutely love food. It's just I forget to prioritize myself in the sense of fueling my body in the right ways. So when I do have a minute to eat, I do try to focus on, okay, what can I put in my body that will help me feel full for the rest of the day? So I'm focusing on the protein. Water is non-negotiable. I'm always getting my water in.
Mhm.
So it is a challenge though.
For sure. Absolutely a
We're
challenge.
making dinner on the fly, almost every night. And that's just the way it is.
Does it, does that change when Caleb doesn't have as much work to do? Or because I know it's summertime, so I'm
Mhm.
wondering if his schedule changes and it helps lighten the load for you when things are slower for him, or is there just no slow time really for you guys? You're just going 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, because if we have a slower time at work, we're always busy with something else. It's working on the house or doing this project or doing that. And there's
Sure.
just really no downtime, I guess, if you will.
Sure.
But I don't know. I don't know if most people are like us though.
I would suggest that a lot of people, especially nowadays, right, with social media, with the internet, with working from home, or being able to, because of Zoom, because of all
Mhm,
these things, we're able to, we could literally work 24/7, right?
mhm,
And then
mhm,
there's the social aspect of we should be able to do it all, so we should do it all, right?
mhm.
Because there's kids and there's the house and there's all the activities and there's work and there's family. And so I think that more often than not, people are probably working along the same lines that you are
Mhm.
and struggling with similar things that you're struggling with. And maybe they don't have a nighttime routine, but they have the food thing down, but you have the nighttime
Sure.
routine down and not the food. So we're all kind of in this space where we're trying to figure it out. And I think a lot of people get stuck trying to be perfect and do it all.
Mm.
And then they get down on themselves and they feel guilty and disappointed and all the things. Do you run into that? Do you feel like you have to be perfect, do all the things perfect? Or have you kind of been able to, like you said, sit back and breathe and say, okay, I'm working on it and that's okay?
Mhm. Now I'm definitely to the point where I give myself permission. In the past, leading up to this, I would say I was always trying to be a perfectionist. I was stressing myself, burning myself out over and over again. And no, it doesn't work. It does not work. So we have to as long as we're always working towards improving in some department in our life,
Mhm.
I think I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna say. Sorry, I lost my train of
No,
thought.
that's okay. So instead of being a perfectionist and feeling like
Mm,
everything has to be right now, everything has to be perfect, I'm going to do everything, you're saying it's more about making progress and not
mhm.
always in all the areas, and knowing
Absolutely.
that that can't happen all the time.
Absolutely. And at different times of our life, other things are maybe more of a focus than others. As our life shifts. So we can't always just say, well, this is just the way it's going to be all the time. We have to be flexible. Circling back to food, it's like, yep, sometimes we travel. And so maybe that looks different than our day-to-day work schedule, food schedule. And I don't know.
And just accepting that, I think you bring up a good point is people, I think a lot of people feel like it's always going to be this way. I'm always, because we have this concept of we're living in the moment every day, just doing all the things, checking the boxes, doing all the actions, and we forget that they're 10 years from now or 5 years from now or 15 years from now, like things are going to look different. Things are going to be different because things are ever changing. So
Mm-hmm.
how are we optimizing what we're doing now in the moment with what we have and what we can do, being flexible like you are with your business and making things work the best that you can right now, and still finding ways to prioritize yourself and your health and wellness, because
Mm-hmm.
what do they always say, um, you can have 1,000 other problems, right? But
Hmm.
as long as you're healthy, but the second your health goes, that's the only problem you have, right?
Yeah, it's very true.
So finding ways, like you have found certain ways to prioritize things that you can do to make yourself healthier, to stay healthy, focusing on your mental health, focusing on getting to bed on time, those kinds of things are really important for you. And you had
Mhm.
said earlier that you were trying to find yoga classes,
Yeah.
but you live in a small town. What issue
Yeah.
are you running into with that?
Oh, I live in such a small town. So, with small towns, there's a lot of positive things, but then there's also the challenges of, first of all, the lack of options. So, and then start times. So I don't know what people do between 5 a.m. and 7 a.m., but it
Mhm.
seems like the earliest classes that are available are anywhere from 9 a.m., 9:30, or otherwise even the evening. For me, that's challenging. As a realtor, what are my busy times? I'm typically seeing clients after they get done with work. So that's evenings and weekends, right? So that goes out the door. I do not commit to any after school activities, if you will, because I'm out with my clients. During the day, that's typically when I'm doing my behind the scenes stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I guess either I'll have to adjust to that schedule and start doing yoga in the middle of the morning, which I don't know, but I like mornings. I do like mornings.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that's
Before everybody else wakes up. I want to get that out of the way, you know?
yes. And that, you know what? That is definitely a thing for women who are moms and for women who like run their own show. Like,
Yeah.
I got to have my time in the morning to do what I need to do before everybody else gets awake and has all
Yeah.
those expectations on you for helping them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. It's my time. I love mornings. That's my time with my coffee. And if I can find some yoga to do in that morning, that's even great, even just a couple times a week. But that's usually when I'm doing my journal. I'm really just getting my mind right around the day so I can win the day. That's my time.
Win the day. I love that.
Mhm.
Have you tried yoga, like just online stuff, or is that not a thing?
Yes.
Not,
Yes.
I see
Yes.
your
No,
face. Y'all, if
I,
you could see her face right now, you'd go, she does not like that, Laura. Stop talking. That is not good.
I did a program for quite a few years, kind of a hybrid. I did some at home and some at our local gym that offered it. And it was great, but I did it for over a decade. So I got bored with the routine. So I tried a new program and if I'm just gonna be blunt, it's cheesy. It's very
Mm,
cheesy. I can't take it.
gotcha.
Well, I find to challenge myself when I'm with a group of people more than when I'm by myself because I'm more likely to slack off when I'm at home by myself.
Sure. True. And also part of that probably is you own your business. Like you work, and when you work, you're pretty much by yourself. So it's
Yeah.
nice to be able to be in a community of people who are doing something similar to you that can support you and maybe hold you accountable, but it's nice to have that vibe in the room with you, I'm sure.
Absolutely. It is. It is. Because I'm going to try to hold that pose a little bit longer, when I'm with that group.
Mhm.
I don't want to be the first one to fall over.
Hey, a little competition isn't bad. Even in yoga, I know that's not a purist yoga thing to think, but
Yeah.
super helpful. Well, Cassie, if there was one bit of advice or something you've learned that you want to share with the busy moms out there, the busy entrepreneurs, people who have busy schedules that maybe need just a little something to help them focus on themselves a little more, what would you say to them?
Yeah, I think that really just sit down and figure out what your priorities are. What is your non-negotiables? What's important to you? And then you need to schedule everything else around that. I mean, obviously give yourself grace with flexibility. I don't mean put it on your calendar at 7 and it has to happen at 7. If you need to move it later that day or the next day, but make sure it's happening in somewhere in your routine. Because our health is pretty much all we have, right? Whether if it's our physical health, mental health. So we have to take care of ourselves first. And it took me a really, really long time to realize that. And I don't know, we can't show up as our best selves if we don't take care of ourselves first.
And I think I'm just going to add one thing on that. You want to show up for your best self, particularly when it comes to your kiddos, right?
Mhm.
You want to make sure that your little man is getting the best you that he can when you're with him. And I think
Yep.
that's really important to think about, is if we're not taking care of ourselves, the people that we need to take care of aren't getting the best of us because we're not taking care of ourselves.
Yes. And our husbands, our spouses, I should say, our spouses, and they need our best selves too because we're partners and we're doing this together. And our family and other people. I mean, there's other people that need us. So, for example, at some point later today, I'm going to be out I'm helping with a benefit. My little guy's bestie was diagnosed with leukemia
Mhm.
recently. And so, there's another department where I'm feeling called to and I'm trying to help, right? But if I'm burnt out, it's going to be hard for me to help other people as well in that sense. So I think it's a really big picture overall.
Right. Well, good for you for helping out with that. That's tough. It's really
Yeah.
tough. Yeah. Well, Cassie, thank you so much for coming on today. Super great conversation. Just helping people understand, number one, I love the behind the scenes of how it is to be a realtor. That's exciting, especially nowadays, right? Always interesting.
Yeah.
But just being able to talk to you about how you manage all the things, because you do have so many things going on. I think it's important for others to see that, to hear that, to know that they're not alone and that we all struggle with different things depending on what we're doing and where we're at. So you're making good progress. I love it. I think it's exciting. It's always interesting. So, hey, y'all, if you need a realtor in Minnesota, I have her right here, Cassie. So you just let me know. But Cassie, thanks for coming on. It was awesome to talk with you. I appreciate you. I miss seeing your face. I know I'm going to be in Minnesota this next week, but you won't. So that's fine.
I
Whatever.
know. I'm reschedule. Stop. Okay.
That's fine. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us today, and join us on our next episode of Basics and Beyond the podcast. We'll be talking to you soon.